Hey everyone, welcome to Financial Revelations. I am David Safransky with the Christmas edition. Merry Christmas. You can say that in America again, and I want you to say it often. It's after Thanksgiving, so say it to every clerk. Say it to everybody that you come in contact with. Merry Christmas. You can contact us. You can contact Corey. You're not going to contact me, but you can contact Corey at epsf.com. You can call here. 1-800-344-2534, all running below me. We're going on a mission trip. The boat's full. We got no room at the inn for you if you want to go on the mission trip. But what you can do, there's a couple things that you can do if you'd like to support us. One, you can send us money because we do need money. There's projects that we do while we're not there that we fund, and things that we start and we continue the funding for. And everybody that works for the mission, like we have a board of directors for Nativos USA. It's all volunteer. The Nativos USA does not pay for our travel. So virtually every single dollar is going to Nativos USA, to Nativos in Brazil. So if we raise a dollar goes. Now, we'll have our own 501c3 by the end of the year. You can be able to get the Nativos USA. We'll have the mailing address. We'll have a bank account set up, which is all happening right now as we speak. So we're going to streamline things, and it's going to be great. But you can donate. You can pray for us. We do need prayer. There's a lot of people going this time, and quite frankly, it's like herding cats. Even though they're all adults, people kind of get off on their own thing. Nobody's doing anything wrong, but just kind of keeping everybody organized, pointed in the right direction. And the third thing that you could do is start planning for the next trip. So if you want to go, you don't get shut out. And I already have probably 8-9 people asking me about the next trip, and we'll have some announcements on that. We might do it this year still. You can go all year long. The only time you really don't want to go is in the middle of the rainy season, because you can't dig a well in the middle of the rainy season. It's just too hard. And I'm going to get to this in a minute, but I got a shirt here that I'm going to hold up in a second, and some buttons and some hats left, and one shirt that I'm not going to give away because I love it too much, and it's my last one. I can order more, right? I can order more. I'll give it away. You twisted my arm, Corey. So I wanted to do a couple of things. I want to do a year in recap, because this has been really a good year. It's been a good year, not without turmoil, of course. What was the turmoil, you say? Well, we had Liberation Day, for one thing. Stocks fell 20% when the Trump administration announced tariffs. Those were a couple of big down weeks after that. And I'm gonna hold up a shirt to let you know what we did when that happened. We also had kind of the AI rollover, where people were saying, well, the AI trade is over, and people are starting to transition out of AI stocks. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. And then we had this drumbeat with every piece of bad news. We had this drumbeat from the left about how Trump is going to sink the economy. And, I have spent a lifetime in the markets studying economics and finance and all the things that go around with it. It's rare that you see this kind of possibility in the economy. I know there's a lot of good things that have happened over the years, of course, and in both administrations. There's been years where the Democrats have had great stock markets, but this is something I think that we haven't seen in a long time. For instance, just talking about the year in recap, the S&P 500, as of the recording of this, is up about 16.7%, give or take, year to date. That's a great year, 16.7%. The QQQ, which is the Nasdaq index, it's the ETF that follows the index of the Nasdaq. And those are like where the AI stocks are, the computer stocks, a little bit more aggressive. 21.96% year to date. That's a stupendous year. The Dow, now most people don't know this. When people quote the Dow, There's only 30 stocks in the Dow. So it's not a great index to follow, but we do follow it. It's one of the measures that we use. They tend to be like the biggest stocks in that industry are part of the Dow. That's up 12.67% year to date, or thereabouts, as of the recording of this. But that's a great year for the Dow. That is a great year so the year in recap is it's been a great year. Absolutely been a great year. And if you followed my advice this year, you're outperforming these indexes, but not without turmoil. And I think that represents something, because if you panicked and got out and lost your way, you didn't have a great year. And believe me, I've had people calling me and saying, why am I still in the market when on Liberation Day? Well, guess what we do? Hold on. Wait for this. Now, if you're just listening, you're not going to see this. So I'll tell you what it says. But I'm holding up a shirt, and it says, buy the chaos. You got to buy the chaos. There's, in any chance that you get, buying the chaos is generally a good idea, but few years better than this one. Pandemic year, that was a great buy that chaos. Oh my gosh, did we have a great year in the pandemic. But that's why we buy the chaos. That's where the money gets made, is in the chaos. When everything's going up and it's easy, yeah, you'll make money there. But the difference in your portfolio, the reason why you'll outperform everybody else, is if you keep a little cash on the side for when there's chaos, like Liberation Day, like the AI trade rollover, apparently. And what that means is people are saying, well, the AI trade is over and people are moving on to the next thing. That's not true. That is not true. The AI trade is just getting started. And I think for the month of December, I am looking pretty strongly at a Santa Claus Rally happening, and that just means the market goes up. Now, what could get in the way of that? Well, there's a Fed meeting next week. And most likely there's going to be a rate cut. We have to remember that Chair Powell, I'm going to miss this guy because I won't be able to say it like that anymore. Chair Powell wants to go out on a high note. He's human. He wants to be liked. He wants to get invited to parties. I might be the only one who's looking to get disinvited to parties. I might be the only one. My wife also. But most likely there is going to be a rate cut. But if there isn't, here's what I want you to do. I want you to buy the chaos. In fact, I'm going to give away a couple of shirts and a hat. You just send Corey an email that says, I want to buy the chaos. You're getting I want to buy the chaos or buy the chaos shirt. I have a couple of those left. I might have a stepped up basis shirt, and I definitely have a Gulf of America shirt, which is one of my favorite shirts. Because people say, well, how could somebody just rename the Gulf of Mexico? Well, liberals did it for 4 or 5 years, where they're just ripping down statues and renaming things and taking the names off of things because all of a sudden they don't like that person anymore. Well, we could rename stuff too. How do you like it? Huh? Gulf of America. If Powell doesn't cut rates, buy the chaos, because Trump is going to nominate a new Fed chairman, and if he doesn't, and if Powell doesn't cut rates, Trump will name that Fed chairman even earlier. He might do it as Powell's talking, just to stick a dig in the Powell's back, get a knife into him. And who's it going to be? It's going to be Kevin Hassett. And Kevin Hassett is going to be named this month. And the reason why I like Kevin Hassett, he would be a great Fed chairman because he's what we call a Fed traditionalist. So what that means to me is the Fed has 2 jobs and only 2 jobs. That's it. They have nothing to do with global warming. They have nothing to do with DEI. They have nothing to do with ESG. That's what we've gotten under Chair Powell. Or, as Henry and I like to call him, Chair Foul, as in foul ball. What they did over the last several years, as soon as Joe Biden became president, they totally diverted from their two mandate job. And what are their two mandates? Full employment, stable prices. And what does that mean? Full employment means an unemployment rate in between 4 and 5%. Stable prices means low inflation, 2% or less. And they totally screwed those things up. Well, they totally screwed inflation up. It was really hard to screw up the job market because the job market was pretty strong, but they totally screwed up the inflation numbers. We had over 9% inflation under Joe Biden. Prices are still coming down. And so what Kevin Hassett will do, he'll do a couple of things. One, he's going to focus on the dual mission of the Fed. Two things: full employment, stable prices. That's what he's going to focus on. That's the Fed's job. He's also going to shrink the Fed. The Fed, they have a balance sheet that's gotten way too big, and that affects interest rates. And it makes them go higher. So he's going to make the Fed less interventionist. That's going to help interest rates. That's going to help markets. He's a free market expansion guy. That's who you want at the Fed. So he's going to be for lower interest rates. He's a lower interest rate guy. Now, that doesn't mean you go to zero like we did in the pandemic. That wouldn't be appropriate right now. We don't need that. Those are the big guns. When we went to zero, that's like bringing out the howitzers. And I remember one time my wife was mad at one of the kids. They had done something, kind of willful, disobedient. But it wasn't a horrible thing. My wife was really mad. And I said, honey, let's save the big guns for the real trouble. So, we'll deal with it. And I'm not an expert in children or wives or anything like that, but I felt pretty confident about this at this time. It was a childish thing that they did. So you bring out the big guns when you need them, but you don't bring them out when you don't need them. And the big guns in interest rate policy would be negative or zero interest rates. We don't need those right now. But what do we need? We need lower interest rates. We need to see the housing market come back. That's a market expansion thing. And that's going to happen. That's why in my prediction of next year, and that's what I'm going to get to right now, my prediction of next year, and I think you guys are going to like this. Now, I got to admit, I am kind of an internal optimist because I always think things can get better if we do the right things. And I do believe that's possible here. I think the market could get even better. The AI trade isn't over. Now, could it be true, though, that the easiest money in AI has been made? Yeah, that can be true. At some point, things get to their value, and they're not going to, there are no 9,000-foot trees in the forest. Why? Because eventually they just stop growing. They get to the weight that their roots can support, and markets are kind of like that too. So stocks get valued to a point where they're probably not going to go rapidly higher, but they will go higher with increased profits. So what do you got to do? You got to look at the new guys on the block, the people that we overlook, the underperformers up to this point that are also going to siphon off business from those big guys. So I think next year markets are going up. But why, David, you may ask? Why would they go up? Well, that's a good question. One might even say, David, show me the money. Give me the reasons why it's going to go up. Well, for one, the big, beautiful bill that got passed is really a tax reform bill. And you got to go through a taxation cycle to really get the benefits from the big, beautiful bill. And then they start to multiply on themselves. 100% expensing. You're going to realize that when you file your taxes, for businesses. The lower tax rate, you're going to realize that when you file your taxes, you get a refund. You're going to have more money in your paycheck. You're going to have more money in your bank account. So that's two of the reasons why I think the market's going higher. The third reason is rates are going lower. Now, lower rates aren't automatically a precursor to rising markets, but it's a pretty good indication. And where we're seeing the market really slow down is in real estate because, I'm a financial genius, as you know. I refinanced my house at 2.65%. Well, earlier this year, rates were at 7. You're not going to get me to sell a house at 2.65 and go to a 7% mortgage. You're just not. Now, there are some people who will do that. Maybe they have to move. They don't have a choice. But yeah, that's not going to happen by and large. So the housing market has slowed down. You get lower rates and you're going to pick that up again. And that's kind of like the grease that keeps an economy moving. It's a nice housing market. The next thing is inflation is going down. Inflation is going down. Just yesterday, by the way, I look tired today, I'm sure, because I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday, and I had an early flight home. I left yesterday morning. I was coming back yesterday afternoon. I get to the airport. Josh and I get to the airport, and delay. We didn't fly out till like 10 o'clock at night, 10:20. I didn't walk in my door until 1 a.m., but yet I'm still here because I love you guys. I'm still here. Yesterday, they announced new CAFE standards for automobiles, and they took out the EV mandate, did a bunch of things. President Trump is going to lower the price of a car $1,500 generally, because the global warming scam is exactly that. It's way overblown. It's not real. We don't need to do these things. CO2 is not killing the environment. So we're going to have lower inflation. Prices are going to be lower, which means your paycheck is going to go farther. The third reason is gas is coming down in price. Now, I want you to don't just think about gas, think about energy, okay? Energy. Energy in general is dropping in price. When that happens, when energy drops in price, markets expand. Low energy is the mother's milk of a free market. You think about all the data centers that are getting built. They're having trouble deciding how are we going to power this, because the power demands are pretty dramatic. In fact, Meta, which is Facebook, as you know, they are building a data center. They are paying. Meta itself, the company Meta, is paying to restart 3 Mile Island. Now, if you're like me, 45-ish, you remember 3 Mile Island, because Reactor 3 melted down the first week it was started up. And they shut down the whole place. Well, they're not restarting that reactor, don't worry. But they're restarting reactor number 2 to give power only to Meta to power its data center. So we're going to see things like this. We now have these modular nuclear power plants. They don't build those old style nuclear power plants anymore with the humongous cooling tower. They're modular nuclear power plants, and they can be set up relatively quickly, safely. Of course, we want to be safe. And they're the cleanest form of energy that we have. Now, we're going to use natural gas. We're going to continue to use some coal. But, for 40 years, the environmentalist wackos fought nuclear power plants. Now we come to realize, and by the way, no matter what the environmentalist wackos are doing, we're going to realize this in 30 years, they're wrong about everything. They've never been right about anything. There isn't one thing that the environmentalist wackos have been right about that they could point to. Everything that they talk about has been proven wrong. Everything. So don't believe them. Don't fret about global warming. Temperatures change. Did you know that at one point, now this may be news to you. I don't know if you know this, but at one point it was much colder here because we had an ice age. The smoking did not kill the dinosaurs. It was an ice age. So we had a point in our history, in the world history, where the world was covered by ice. We don't know why, but that happened. So temperatures change over time. I just don't believe that man has the power that they think we have. They're conceited and haughty. They always have been. Liberals are conceited and haughty and think they know best, and especially they think they know best for you, but they don't want to do it. Bernie Moreno, the U.S. Senator from Ohio, I spent like 1 minute with him yesterday, gave him a copy of my book. So liberals in the Senate want you to have all these things on your car to help stave off global warming. Some of them you can get now. Well, what he did is he had his staff look at every VIN number of the members of the Senate and he was able to run their VIN numbers to see what they have on their car. Nothing illegal about that. Your VIN number, anybody could take a picture of your VIN number if they can get to your windshield. Not one of the liberals in the Senate had any of these options on their car. Why? Because they don't want to pay for them. They want you to pay for them. That's what they want. That's what politicians do, at least on the left, is liberalism and socialism isn't something that is enacted for you. It's enacted on you. Don't ever forget that. Hey, you know what? It's going to be a great year next year. We're going to finish off strong. I can't wait to see you guys. Maybe we'll do an event next year. We've done it in the past. We've had a great time. If you want a shirt or a hat, send an email to Corey that says, I want to buy the chaos. Buy the chaos. And we'll send you out a shirt. I am David Safransky, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.